Welcome back, everybody. Automotive Inc. Today we're going to talk about some suspension enhancement. I get this question asked a lot, no matter if it's an HD or if it's a half ton. What my thoughts are on, say, an airbag right here. You see this big monster, or all the other ones out there. I think there's one called the Load Ranger or something like that. Timbren Sumo springs, and really, we need to break down what the advantages of doing any of these are. So depending on what kind of truck you have, the truck is made to handle a certain amount of payload. It's made for certain different ways. And because there's thousands of different packages out there, sway bars and camper packages and stuff, you really just need to kind of forecast your needs. But hey, say if you bought a truck already and it does basically what you need, but you notice it has a little bit of extra sway, or it feels like it needs to be leveled, or something like that when it comes to trailering. Well, enhancing your suspension is a good way to, one, be able to keep the truck you currently have. If it does everything, just needs a little bit better control. And really, the only company that's actually offering a factory airbag system on their truck is Ram. Ram came out with it a long time ago. It's cutting edge, it's excellent, it's a very expensive option, but that one actually, you can use buttons on it, and inside the cab it's already in there, it's from the factory, so it's going to carry a factory warranty. But what if you're some consumer out there that's actually had your vehicle for a while and you want to see if you need to trade it off or not? Well, enhancing your suspension is probably the first way to try if you really love the vehicle, because you can save way more money keeping your truck that's already paid off and everything like that. So I ran into a couple not even 2 weeks ago. They were talking about they had an F-150 power boost, and they said that basically putting their camper on the tongue weight really sinks it down. Keeping in mind, guys, most half tons don't have a lot of tongue weight if you're doing conventional towing. They don't have a lot of great tongue weight that you can put on there. So be real careful when choosing your trailer that you aren't overdoing it. But what they were saying is it was basically cocking or canting their truck so far to the ground, it was really having a hard time on hitching. And well, that's a big, huge bummer. Because for the most part, other than having problems with their F-150, they don't like the way it handles necessarily when it tows a trailer, and they don't like that weird way it sits. So I talked to them for quite a while because they were wanting to know about airbags and who has them and who doesn't. Well, Ram has them. That's it. So you are left to the aftermarket. But do you have to have airbags? As you can see right there, I've had these airbags. These are for a 2020 to 2025 Chevy Silverado, 25 and 35. This is a pack brake brand. This airbag set itself was at the time about $800. And they accidentally sent me two sets, and when I tried to get a hold of them and send one back, they didn't want it back. So I put one on one truck, and here's what I'll tell you guys. Look at this box of parts and everything like this. If you're a novice tool turner, you can still do this, but the difficulty on this is going to be a lot more sophisticated than just your standard suspension upgrade that I'm going to recommend. Now, I'm not endorsed by Pack Brake. I'm not endorsed by Timbren. I'm not endorsed by Sumo. I don't really care. You can even find some, there's a cheap brand for F-150. It's called Max Speeding Rods. I will link each one of these down in the description below over on the Zon. You can go over and score them. The Max Speeding Rod one for the F-150, I think, was less than $100. And any person with a set of sockets can put that on in probably less than an hour, even if you have a very little knowledge of turning tools or wrenches on your vehicle. And so at the end of the day, the complexity of something like these, and here's the thing, you're going to have to find or drill holes to mount your air tabs. Again, unless you're going to spend even more money and get a compressor with a remote, you're going to be relegated to always letting air out when you're empty and then finding compressed air. So you can either buy a small air compressor to carry with you and have a way to plug it in. Some of the more powerful 12-volt plug-in ones can air this up. If it can air up a car tire, it can do your airbags. But there's maintenance to these, because these can fade, they can bulge, they can be exploded if you fill them too much. And just over time, just like on a semi, the bags will have to be replaced. And Again, these can get fragile. They can get full of dirt if you don't forget to put a cap back on. And then the overall price and complexity of this is substantially more than just what I'm going to recommend. I would highly recommend anybody going out there is getting some type of version of what's called a Timbren. Timbren is an actual name brand. Now I've already assembled these, but basically it's one bolt, one washer here, a washer and a nut inside there. They're nylon threaded, so they're never going to come loose. And then depending on what kind of truck you have that has the bump stops, it's really either going to be 2 nuts, or for Chevy it's a snap-in. You'll grease that up with some Dawn dish soap and slap it in there. And then for removal, it's about the same. So if you want to keep your product when you're getting ready to trade, you can keep it. Ford uses 2 bolts. I think Ram, if I remember right, uses bolts to mount theirs, and Chevy again is a push-in. Now that doesn't mean that I would not recommend an airbag. There are certain circumstances that an airbag makes absolute sense. In my one-ton dualies, if you're a hot shotter, a rancher, farmer, something like that, you're towing livestock trailers all the time, then I think this with a compressor is a very good idea, because you're always probably under load, and if you have the compressor, you can manipulate the air pressure in there, so ride is better when you're empty and you don't have to get out and let it out. And if you're hauling a slide-in camper, this could also be a better benefit over than something like a Timbren or a Sumo spring or a load to go. I don't remember what they call them. I've seen them before. They're just not for me. But anyway, I could definitely recommend something like that. Slide-in campers. A lot of always weight in your bed. Sure, why not? A welder, a person has a welding rig on their truck. Airbags, yeah, for sure. Just because you're probably always loaded. When you're not always loaded though, and you have airbags, again, you're going to want to let that air out. And then when you get somewhere and you are loaded, you're going to be like, crap, I need to fill those with air. That's where Sumo springs and Timbrens come in. I've been running these for years. And what this is, it takes no air. It's a solid brick of rubber, if you will. It goes up in the bump stop and then basically leaves a small gap in between that and the lower axle bump stop. So when you load up your truck and it basically squishes all the way down to the overloads, that little bump stop can go all the way down, and it's about half the size of this. And what this does is it's hard enough that it gives a progressive pushback. So when you put your trailer on yours on both sides, this gives a progressive pushback, almost like a little bit of sway control, or maybe exactly all like a sway control. I've noticed a huge difference putting these on, especially on the Rams. And again, these are less than a couple $100. If you want to get the cheap generic knockoff on the Zon, I'll link a set down there for every HD truck that we've talked about, the Ram, Ford, and Chevy. And of course, GMC is the same as Chevy. And I will link a set of bags. I will let a link on Sumo. So Sumos are made just a little bit differently. They're made out of a foam type material, and I've ran them before. I'm not a fan of them as much as Timbrens. These just are robust. They just last forever, basically. There's very little maintenance. I suppose if you live somewhere where there's salty weather, they might rust out after like 15-20 years, but an airbag subjected to the same thing with all these stainless steel clamps and edges and stuff, definitely could have the same possibility of doing that. So before you run out and spend all of this money on airbags or switching your truck out, you can give these guys a shot, guys, especially if you get them off the Zon. Like I said, I'll link them for the F-150, the Ram, the 1500 Chevy and GMC, and then all the HD trucks too. They'll be down below. Those will be labeled, and right below that you can click the link, go over and check them out. I'll even put the cheap version in there for the F-150, and that cheap version was actually really nice. It did really, really good, and I think this is the best way for you to not have to replace your truck, or if you love your truck, you just want just a little bit more sway control to easily install it. I actually have install videos for all of those type of different Timbrens installs. Don't remember if I made a video on the airbag install, but again, each set of airbags can be different depending on what brand you go with. So, but no matter what you do with the Timbrens or the Sumos, they're all going to be basically the same. So my 2 cents is, guys, save yourself some dough. Head over there, buy these, put them on your rig. If they enhance the problems that you're lacking in your vehicle and lets you have the ability to keep it, win. If it doesn't, pop them off, send them back to the manufacturer and go traffic truck, and then buy a set that actually fits the new truck and put them on there still. I will not tow without Timbrens, and I will no longer put bags on any of my pickups because just longevity, air leaking, always having to find air. They're a pain in my butt. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't put those on there. But again, if you wanted to, those, I gave you my reasons why I would use those type of systems on your pickup. As always, guys, I appreciate you guys being here, and I'm going to catch you on the next one.